with you today. So we were working in different countries as a L&D and BHR team, and we have received a lot of information about TMR process and talent management process and talent management system. At the same time, we felt that we might need some more practical information and maybe more practical platform where we could talk about the issues that we face, and we could share our experience, maybe our problems, and maybe help each other to find the solution. So kind of place for interaction. So we decided to call it TMR Share and Learn platform, and this is where you are today at the moment. Today, people will be facilitating. It doesn't mean that we will be speaking all the time, but just for you to know who is there. It's John Metcalf, L&D Solutions Director for EMEA. It's Doina Bratu, L&D Solutions Senior Manager for EPD. I believe, Doina, you're also working mostly for EMEA, but EPD has a little bit different geography, so not only EMEA. We have Miranda Schut, who is L&D Solutions Manager and responsible for TMR, TMS, and talent management process. And we have myself, I'm training manager for Russia and CIS. Just to give you a brief overview about this event today, we are going to discuss things which we consider and you consider to be important, which refers to the TMR process.
Yuri?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, and I know you're getting there, but perhaps it's good to mention now that I'm not sure who it is, but there's somebody working with the line not on mute, and there's a lot of noise of kids, so it could be a good idea to put it on mute for everyone.
Yeah. Okay, but I'll be there just in a second. So
yeah.
Rules of participation. We expect that we participate actively, so it's not kind of broadcast where we expect participants to sit still and listen to the voice. So we expect that you participate actively and be present here now and ask questions and answer them. We expect that you shut off other technologies, you stop shooting emails and maybe looking at other windows, so please be in this window, in WebEx window. You can raise your hands by hitting the space button in case you have a question. So let's try to do it. I'm trying to raise my hand, but I can't because I'm the presenter. If you press the space button, you will raise your hand. So Margarita just done it. Miranda, thank you for raising your hand. So please, all of us, let's do a little exercise. You just need to hit your space button on the keyboard of your laptop, of your computer. So that's it. Doina has made it. Okay, so most people now know how to do it. In case you have some questions, you can ask them through chat functionality, which is there in WebEx, and you can send it to myself or to Miranda, and we will be collecting them, and we will do our best to answer them. If not now, maybe some in near future. The platform is our expectations is that we all are sharing insights and experience. So this is kind of no passengers approach, and we all are expected to push the pedals on this tricycle or whatever it is. About the phones. We ask you, please, to put your line on mute via regular button on your phone. So now it's still in line. I don't hear any voice. But if you have a comment or question, or if we ask you a question, and we will be asking some because we really need some interaction from your side. So please unmute your line and feel free to speak. So today we are all allowed to, really share our experience and really share our issues that we face. And one last thing I would like to mention is please never put your line on hold. If you do that, for example, if you have other incoming line and you open it, we will all hear a beautiful music, and I will not be able switch it off unless I will mute all the participants, and this will make our interaction impossible. So please don't take any other lines during this call. I know it might be difficult, but please manage to do so. Before we physically begin, I would like to ask you one question. Please choose your years with the TMR process. So you could be either a beginner with TMR, you could have some experience, and you could have substantial experience. So I opened a poll right now, so can you please check the appropriate button? Okay. Okay, so I have all the guys who have finished at the moment. Let's see, and I can share it with you at the moment. So you should be able to see the results at the moment. Do you see them?
Yeah.
That's clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a number of people who are kind of new to the process, like 53%, more than half. We have some people with some experience, but still having some questions, and we have a couple, actually 1/3 of the guys who have substantial experience and probably have some questions around that. Okay, with that in mind, we would like to proceed with some words about TMR, how it should be looking like, and the general idea, what it should be, how it should go, and I would like to pass the word to John Metcalf here.
Thanks, Yuri. Hi, everyone. TMR vision sounds very highfalutin, but really I just wanted to talk a little bit about what does a successful TMR look like. And having seen the profile of the people in the call, for the people who've got a previous experience, it would be interesting to see if you have additions or if anything I say resonates. In the last few years, I've really been lucky. I've run TMRs at country level, at division level, at the area, and helped prepare for executive TMRs for the last few years. And it strikes me that some of the meetings have been good, and some of them have been great. I don't think there's ever been a bad one, just by the nature of the meeting. But it did make me reflect a little bit about, what is it that makes one of these meetings great? And as Yuri said, we get loads of guidance on the kind of techniques and the process and the templates and so on. And the TMS tool itself, I think, is a big step forward. But I was just again thinking about, what is it that somehow turns these meetings into particularly good ones? And actually, I think it's back to basics. And I think when you have a standard process, sometimes it's easy just to roll with the process. So my learns have been, first of all, before each meeting, even if you've run lots before, just really think, why are we doing this? We're getting a lot of people together who are, quite expensive people to get together in terms of time. What are we actually hoping to get out of this, and how do I maximize the return on investment of actually having this meeting? And one of the fundamentals is the people in the room need to be really clear, and they need to be prepared in terms of the information and the knowledge that they bring, but also just in terms of the attitude that they bring, and they're ready to challenge each other, and they're ready to explore. And that might sound easy and obvious, but given how busy most people are, they may have to shift their mindset from the previous meeting they've just rushed out from, in order to really get them prepared for that meeting. So I would say, whoever it is and however well you know them, just get yourself through that process and then make sure that the leader and the team have just reflected on that for a moment. The other thing I think it struck me is you can just treat this as a meeting, and sometimes I've been guilty of that, but actually it's a half day or a day. It's a step in a process, so you need to really prepare it in advance, and ideally you really need to follow it up through the rest of the year, because what we're trying to do here is to have a full talent pipeline for all key positions. I suspect that when you go into the TMR meetings, you'll realize that there are, or it'll be very explicit that there are lots of gaps. So even identifying that gap is useful, but then what are we going to do to accelerate the development of people into those gaps and really move things forward and build capability in areas where maybe we simply don't have any capability. So it's great to identify it, but I often see that that's where the process stops. But I think at the end of the year, when we look back, we should be able to say, we had a really effective meeting, everyone contributed, we really understood what the issues were, we agreed some really clear actions, and then look what we've done to actually follow up on that. And I think about it in advance. I always try and remember it when I'm actually facilitating. If things go off on a tangent or if the discussions are getting heated, what we're trying to do is have a full pipeline and identify and accelerate development of key individuals. The follow-up and the actions should also support that. And one of the great things about having, and those of you who've done it over a series of years hopefully have seen this, is if you come back to a group the second year for a TMR and you have actually, things have happened during that year and movements have been made, then you have a better meeting again because they realize, hey, this worked, let's do this again. And you just get into a virtuous circle where things get stronger and stronger. TMRs have been running for a really long time in Abbott at a senior level. I think they've been running for less time further down the organization. But when you look at the most senior people in the organization, their careers are planned years ahead. Give an example. Marlon Sullivan recently made DVP for learning and development globally. You can see how his career has been planned for 2 or 3 steps. In a talent acquisition role, out into a business role, back into a more senior staff role. There are many people in the business whose careers have been planned in those ways. What we need to do is to broaden out the number of people who get that kind of attention and try and bring it earlier into people's careers for more people. If you look at the top level of management, so Miles White gives at least 5 days a year every summer to divisional reviews, and then he also has extra TMRs that he calls at particular points in the year or to look at particular capabilities. So he sends a really clear signal that this is an important management activity. And, if you look at a GM level or above, from year to year, you will see certainly in a given division, probably double figures of moves, which have been talked about, identified, development needs identified, and then it's actually happened. And one year you'll say, oh, we need to have someone in this division who's come from another division or who's got this experience. And then a few months later, you see it happen. So there's a real top management commitment. It does work really well. We just need to really try and replicate those activities throughout the whole organization. And I think it's a big win for the business if we do that. And it's great news for ambitious individuals if we can get that right as well. So, Yuri, those are my comments. Interested to hear if anyone's got any additional, or certainly if you disagree with anything I've said. because we're here to learn.
Thank you. If anybody have any comments to that or questions, you could ask right now. And we have so far one question who came in chat, which is, do we have a specific goal on increasing internal mobility? And where we are now and where do we want to be in a couple of years? So if you have any comments to that right now, John?
So I'm not aware of a firm number on that, but there is definitely, in terms of direction, there is a desire to do that. So one of the things at a divisional level, which the president of the division will have to talk to, is the people that they've moved across from other divisions and the kind of breadth of experience that they've added in the year. So I'm not aware of an actual number yet, but it's something that people are being held accountable for.
Okay, any more questions so far? If not, we will proceed, but I still encourage you to ask them through chat or through line anyway. We will do our best to answer. Okay, we go on. So we were thinking about talking about two main topics. This call is first of them is getting prepared for a TMR, and second is actually facilitating a TMR. And when we are preparing, before actually we are doing any steps for TMR, we need to analyze what are the stakeholders for the TMR. Who are those guys who are interested in TMR results? Who want something from the process? Who want something from each other, maybe from yourself? And so who should we interfere with? And by thinking about it, we could help our process being more efficient. So please have a look at this slide, and we have put some of the stakeholders, probably not all, to this slide. So this should be division leaders. This should be country GM or any other senior person in your country or in your SLA or in your function who is interested in upbringing of the personnel in developing of the talent pipeline inside it. There should be management team, and probably these are the guys who are a little bit maybe less educated on the process, at least comparing them with the GM and with the division leaders. It is your BHR head who is certainly interested in the results of the TMR process. It is yourself, and we know there are BHR colleagues online and there are L&D colleagues online, and if you are BHR, you need to get some clarity on how do we proceed with that and that and that personality, and how do we handle that and that and that position. And if you are L&D colleague, probably you will be interested in, okay, what development programs do we need to think about and what development actions are in focus for this year, and so on and so forth. It could be talent acquisition colleagues who need to know beforehand what kind of search they need to conduct in the market and maybe what kind of external candidates they should be looking for. And it could be somebody else. So if you know somebody else, can I ask you to please say them? Either in chat or online. Okay, assuming the list is explicit, so difficult maybe to add something else. So this structure that you see in the screen, we thought it's kind of thinking matrix. So we thought about three questions. First question is, what do they know about TMR currently? So what is the level of the information about the TMR? So if I ask, for example, Heidi, can I ask you about your country GM? How aware is himself about the TMR process currently?
I don't think that any of the country GMs at this moment are very familiar with the process.
Okay, so there might be some specific features of the process which are not, which he doesn't know. or she?
Yes, absolutely. Because honestly, the last 2-3 years, I don't think we did TMRs, and most of the country GMs are here for a couple of years. So maybe on a division level they went through the TMR, but not on a country level.
Okay. And I believe it's not unique situation here. On the other hand, if we ask somebody else, maybe there will be a GM who is quite well aware. And why this question is important, why we are asking it, because we may come to a point where if they don't know what TMR is, how beneficial can it be to the organization, they will not be helping us actively, they will not be our active supporters, in this process, and it will be difficult for us to achieve some resources to that, including their time. So we need to start from the question, what do they know about TMR? And actually we need to educate our business colleagues and sometimes ourselves, like what is the process, what are the expected outcomes, what are the best practices, what is the benchmark, and so on and so forth. And let's ask somebody else. Merve, can you share about your management team? How far do you think they know about TMR currently?
Actually, our management team is really familiar with the TMR processes because they also involved this process on previous years. But we have a new GM in ANI section division, and we will continue to update her also, and we will still providing her about TMR process updated her.
Okay. And Muriel, can I ask you to share? You just have, I believe you have just conducted a TMR, and the level of experience of management team and country GM, was it the same for all the guys, or there were different situations with different members of the team?
So there were different levels, I would suggest, Yuri. Our country is structured slightly differently in that we have a business advisory council, so the head of the BAC is very familiar with TMR and very committed to it. Our commercial group, which would be our country GM, do not attend the country TMR, so that was an interesting factor this year. And then we had some new site directors attending who had not gone through the process before, so we had some who were very experienced and some who were brand new to the experience.
Thanks for that, Muriel. So you see, it's very important for us to know it beforehand, because for some guys they are already experienced and they know a lot, and you don't have to waste your time talking to them and explaining the stuff they already know. With some guys, you have to start from the scratch and be very specific and explain them, like in simple words, what it means for them, and what is the previous experience in this country and in this function, and so on and so forth. So this is our kind of first step. The second step is, what do they want from the process? And it might be willing to have a new workforce for some areas. It might be willingness to share workforce, to share talents, which is a little bit rare probably. Anyway, they do have some expectations, and once we know those expectations, we can think how can we help them to achieve their goals through TMR process, which is crucial to form a partnership with our business colleagues. So these are the stakeholders insights. We are not going to fill this table at the moment, but I will share these slides with you when we finish this call today. And the message here is that you can fill it for yourself. You will probably find some other stakeholders who are not mentioned here. And thinking about these three questions or any other questions you would like to add here will help you to navigate through the process, because it starts with the people who are in the process. we go to the next slide, and next discussion is what's in scope. Actually, this was one of my questions to myself, to global colleagues, because we have a very big team in Russia. It's 1,000 and about 400 people in 3 divisions at the moment. And so how deep shall we go? I put here just a simple org structure. You may see it's kind of, not complicated, but we have different lines, different business units. We have production, and we have some managers of managers, we have some managers of employees, and we have some high-level people who don't have any subordinates. So can I again ask you a question, and please put your answers. How deep shall we go? So shall we just finish at level 1, or shall we go to level 2, or shall we go to level 3, or shall we, make some other shapes here and maybe discuss only those people who manage managers? So please take your turn and vote. Okay, it's 4 guys missing. Okay, I will close it here. I think we have enough responses. So most people decided that they will go through option 2 or option 3. Just 5 seconds for system to finish. Okay. So these are the results that we have, and do you have any comments so far? Do you have any questions for this? What do you think about this?
Yuri, if I could make a comment, it's Muriel. The levels that you go to in TMR was one of the challenges we had in Ireland at our TMR meeting, because grading systems differ, and people's grades were not equivalent at different sites, so some sites went deeper than others. So I think this is very helpful to talk about level 1, 2 and 3, and it might be a watch out for others to do it in this way rather than maybe utilizing grades.
Okay, is there somebody else who checked option number 2 and would like to share experience? So Katarina, can I ask you to comment? You did choose number 2. Why you think number 2 is appropriate?
Well, I think the level number 2 is important because the intermediate managers has to know about this process and how this works.
Okay. So the thing is, we actually don't have a right answer here because what we are discussing is not only the grades, not only the positions, and not only the position in organizational structure, but what we need to focus on is the key positions for the organization. And from this picture, it's not quite obvious what positions are key. Probably head of production is kind of a key position. Probably head of units are kind of a key, and I'm not sure about employees. So we don't have any, I was once asking the global team, how many people should I include into the talent pool at all? I mean, generally, from this 1,000 plus employees, how many people shall we discuss on TMR? And there was no answer, because the answer is you should consider who holds the key positions first, right? So we need to understand what positions are key. And second idea is we have to think about key players. Who are the people who are supposed to be the key talents, who are ready to do next steps in the very near future, and so we need to consider them inside TMR. So it's kind of individual discussion, which actually takes certain time in your preparation to the TMR, and the result is creation of talent pool, which is not always, as I understand, not always holds the people of one level, so they might be people of different levels, but we still need to consider who of them are the key talents. And Donna, Miranda, John, if you have additional comments, please comment here.
Yeah, I have one comment, and it's like Muriel said as well. With this, it's really important that you decide who are going to be discussed during the TMR prior to the meeting, because it really helps you to focus. And if you don't do it before you know the TMR meeting, well, people are, diving into details, and everybody who is a little bit talented will be discussed. So it's really important, and you don't have to look specifically to levels or grades, but have a look, like you said, at the key players and the key positions, and then decide, okay, what is the purpose of this specific TMR meeting? Who are we going to discuss? And then you can focus your preparation on those people.
Yeah, I support that, and people really appreciate when they get there that they've got a focused discussion. It's nothing worse than going through dozens of people that you've never seen and probably never won't see for years. There's one additional point which might sound a little extreme, but in some TMRs you find that there's one person in the meeting who is. I had an example recently where we had one person who was really quite a lot more junior than the other people in the room, and where that led to was there were whole groups of people that we weren't going to be able to talk about because they were peers of this individual. So in the end, when we talked to the chair of a meeting, we actually uninvited that individual. That sounds a little harsh, but it actually did mean that we had a much better and more productive meeting for the people that we did discuss. So have a think about who's there and if the group's logical as well. Okay.
Any other comments, questions concerning the level that we include? The participants, can you share that if you have at the moment?
Okay, this is Anders. Just one additional comment maybe to this. I think it also depends heavily upon the business situation. Let's say if you look at the country, for example, and when I'm looking back in my history, we have this perfect example in Austria these times when Humira was launched, and then we knew that the strategy of the pharma business basically goes into specialties, but we had a lot of people still in primary care, and for the future it was foreseeable that primary care goes down more and more, and that we need to have some more people in specialty care. And in order also to reduce the shock of restructuring and layoffs, etc., we try to shift those people over time through several TMRs into specialty care. And of course, we were focusing on key players firsthand, but also in order to make the whole movement, the whole change of the organization more feasible in terms of the business itself, and also more feasible and easier, smoother for the people. So that's what I'm saying is, it depends heavily on the business situation as well, how many levels you are going to integrate. Because like, as in this example, we included, for example, all down to the sales rep level. Yeah? So this is an additional thing.
Okay, so this is really important to understand who is in scope, what's in scope, what positions and what people are in scope. And in my experience in Russia, we had to split our TMR process into several processes, first 4 divisions, and inside the biggest division we had to split it again into several, so there were a number of stages like we have internationally. So you might have you might come to a decision like this. Let's go on further on this. And we have this checklist. And Miranda, can you please go on with comment?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I won't talk you through the whole list because, well, you can read it afterwards, and there's a lot in it. But I would like to start with saying what really helps you to prepare the TMR is the TMR Quick Start Guide. And for those of you who haven't seen it before, there's a button on My HR. It's the HR staff button, and there's a TMS project page, and there's a lot of information. The TMR Quick Start Guide is a very short one, and it really explains how you can prepare in the best way for your TMR. So I really want to highlight that one because it also shows, and that was one of the questions we got prior to the meeting, and I think it was Nick. Nick was saying, are we able to see a 9-box model in Taleo based upon 9-box information put in a TMS by managers? You definitely can, and what you always can do before the meeting is creating a talent pool, and that's the base also for showing the 9-box. In the TMR Quick Start Guide, there are instructions how to create a talent pool and how to show the 9-box, and you can even decide on showing the 9-box during the meeting. So it will, in the 9-box, you will have all the talents who are included in the talent pool, and that's extremely helpful. The system preparation, and perhaps it's unnecessary to mention, but it's really important because sometimes something goes wrong with your access. So please, before the TMR, check if you have full access to the people who will be discussed during the meeting. You don't want to that it happens that you're trying to look somebody up in the system and that you don't have access. So please test it. Well, I mentioned the talent pool. And what you can do if you know, and that's why it's so important to know prior to the meeting, who are the talents that will be discussed, or at least most of them. You can review and audit the succession plans and the 9 boxes of those talents, because you need to check if the manager put all the relevant information in the talent profiles. You need to know if somebody is, his competencies are assessed and what his performance was, and if he's able to relocate, for example. Those are all the information you can find in the talent profile, and it's very important to check that prior to the meeting. Then that's the same. The performance and potential fields have to be completed by the manager. For the meeting, make sure that you test the system. So also in the room, does it work like the way you want it to work? Are no any technical hiccups? So please check that. And besides, well, we saw it the slides before. Yuri was showing them. You need to do some pre-work. For example, did you meet with the leaders to finalize the objectives for the TMR meeting? What do they expect? And how can you collaborate with them to achieve those objectives? So that's really important, to talk to them, talk who the talents are, and talk what the objectives are for the meeting. Facilitating the meeting, it means that it's very handy if you do a walkthrough to practice what you want to do during the meeting. So practice if you're able to show up a 9-box, and practice what's going to happen. If you show the talent profiles, practice how to search for people. And, you know, one of the ways to learn is by doing it. So practice and then make sure during the meeting you can work with the system smoothly. And last but not least, if you show the 9-box, do you know how to update it? So if you agree with the whole team participating in a TMR that somebody needs to move up to a box or move to another box, do you know how to update the 9-box? Those are more the logistics and preparations things, and you will find this information also on the talent management page in My HR under the HR staff button. There's one thing, and I would like to ask Muriel or Svetlana. Both of you have done a TMR before, and I remember, Muriel, you learned some lessons by doing the TMR, and it had to do with the preparation as well, right?
Yes, Miranda, the preparation, so all of the sites in Ireland contributed their presentations in advance, and then we compiled that into one presentation. But I think the creation of the talent pools was when I was able to do that live in the meeting. That is really when discussions started to generate.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah, it's really a way, like we said before, to focus during the meeting, to create that talent pool, and you can always adjust it during the meeting, but it's very handy and important to have that in prior to the meeting. No, this is it. I think I've got something else, but I come up with it a little bit later.
Okay, so shall we go on?
Yeah, please go on. Yeah.
And if you have any comments, any questions about the checklist, you could address them now or in the chat feature a little bit later. Guys, do you have any questions so far?
Yeah, I think, well, I see at the chat functionality somebody's mentioning, and I think that's a good point, a challenge of a TMR meeting at country level, for example, is to share the same culture, and I think it's meant, so what do you mean by a key talent? What's an A player? What are critical positions? Those things that calibrate discussions, that's really important. So you need to, during the meeting, you need to agree on certain things. Are we talking about the same things? Do we mean the same when we assess somebody's performance, for example? So that's a really good point. That's it, Yuri. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Please whispering there. Stop whispering or make your line mute, please, because we are hearing you. Okay, next slide. There is one standard template which is in our slides that were sent for preparation of the TMR, which is organizational assessment. So while we all have read this column, strategic business priorities and what critical leadership do they require, and hence what leadership gaps and risks do we have, and why and what actions do we plan based on that. But we decided that it might be a good idea to share a real or a kind of a real organizational assessment. So Donna, can you please comment on this slide and maybe on this column?
Yeah, sure, I will do that, yeah. So this is, to me, this is a kind of very important document, because it's something that we use in the preparation of TMR, and as we mentioned, TMR is just a step in a process. And in fact, we should really look more holistically and think of talent management, and talent management is a business process and is a strategic process. So I think this document really illustrates this, and it's important because we are working to prepare this document, so it's part of the prep work. We are using it during the TMR, and it's really important because it's really focusing on essentials and really bridging to the strategic part and then moving to the operational. And we use it after the TMR, because if we have a good document, it's really capturing the essentials, and it's really giving us the opportunity to build and move the organization forward. So we provided an example. We were thinking that it might be helpful. It has EPD flavor, since I'm coming from EPD, but in fact the principles are the same no matter the type of business we are in. So it's really looking and identifying strategic priorities, and we are just thinking what are the top 2-3 strategic priorities over the long range plan. And then, of course, we look and assess organization capabilities, and we ask ourselves what one, two key success factors must be done differently. So it's really looking for the place we can do something new, something different. It's about innovation, if we can call it like this. So what we can do differently, what can be done or must be done differently from today in order to achieve each priority over a long-range plan. So it's not looking just short-term, it's really looking ahead. And of course, what 1, 2, 3 organization performance capability must be in place in order to execute key success factors. So this is where we play such an important role to really build and bridge from strategic priorities to strategic organization capabilities. And then, of course, we move to assess talent, and we ask ourselves, and this is a good question to ask during the TMR, do we have the right talent in the right jobs with the right skills now and over the long-range plan? So are we good now? Are we ready and prepared for the future? Is it something that we should do differently? And of course, how much talent do we need now and over the LRP? And then it's about really taking actions. What actions are needed to close the gaps? So it's really bridging the strategic, long-term strategic vision with, let's say, the more operational one. And this really gives us the opportunity to move things forward, to really create short-term, medium-term, detailed tactical development plans. And in fact, the scope is really to focus on HR plan for rest of the year and by the end of the year. And this is the right document that we can use over 6 months to really show what happened in the meantime or in the upcoming TMR. And this is an example that we put together just to illustrate. And for example, one strategic business priority is to really achieve a certain percentage organic sales growth by 2015 or 2017. And then looking which are the critical capabilities needed. These were some identified at EPD level. And then, of course, we should be very, very honest and clear what's existing in the organization and what really would help us progress. And then think actions. And I think here it's really opening new doors of opportunities for us in HR, because it's really finding the proper development processes and programs to really address these needs and really prove that development is what is really enhancing capabilities and help the organization moving forward. So this is what I wanted to share with this example.
Doina, so this is a nice, very nice wording, and can you share the way and actually who has articulated it? It wasn't yourself, right?
It's a combination. In fact, that's why I said that it's about really bridging with the business reality, bridging with the LRP, and really identifying what, let's say, to really address the vision in my case, white talent needs beyond the organizational health assessment talent gap. So it's really moving forward and understanding how the long-range plan looks like and what is really and which is our aspiration. And then, based on it, to really do a proper assessment and do it in partnership with the business.
So
as I mentioned, yeah.
I'm asking because we have here a set of PHR and L&D colleagues who have in front of them, before the TMR begins, this empty table, right? These empty columns. So they have to go to somebody. Should it be GM or should it be management team or should it be? So how it happens? How this table becomes filled in?
It's a partnership, and that's why I mentioned that it's a business process. So, of course, our role is to understand exactly which is the aspiration of the business, the long-range plan, and what we really need to focus and which are the strategic business priorities. But this should be validated with the business leader and just make sure that we are really focusing on the essentials, because this is the scope of having this process and really bringing the table and discussing how and what do we need to do different to become better and to achieve these goals. So it's a partnership. It's not coming only from one way. it's really understanding the business, partnering with the business leader, and really articulating very clearly. And of course, TMR is a good opportunity to fine-tune, to adjust, or to add new things that might be needed.
Yeah, maybe it's a good opportunity for HR head or HR function representatives to understand what is the future of the organization in this country, right? Because it certainly gives us a certain view on that.
Exactly, and it's really helping us to be proactive and prepare not only action plans and development plans by the end of the year, but really look ahead. 2014, what do we need and how can we do this? And yeah, probably a good example is like having the succession plans and then after 6 months or 1 year look at it and see exactly. We were able to move the ready future to ready now, and we have these people moving from in new roles or having new responsibilities, and of course having developed new capabilities. I think we play an important role in preparation, in running the TMR, coordinating it, or let's say supporting it. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to really bring the proper development solutions and really help the business get new skills and capabilities, and of course improve the business results.
Yuri, it's John. What I would add is, I think in some cases the HR or the L&D person may kind of do a draft for the business, but you do have to be pretty close. And I know that that often happens in EPD, but you have to be pretty close to the business to do that. You may just go with the format and say, let's talk through this, because it's a useful way to flush out what the development needs are. But if you're close enough to the business and you're confident to draft something, that's a great way to do it.
Okay, so given that we have understood what are the organizational strategic priorities for the nearest future, what are the steps expected, given that we have understood what talents are in scope and what positions are in scope, so basically we have prepared majority of information we need for the TMR. So we will then need to go and conduct TMR. And before we switch to facilitation TMR, I would like to ask our participants if they have additional questions on how do we get prepared for the TMR, if you have them. So can you please share, or maybe
I have one question. It's Katerina from Portugal. And according to my last answer about what is the scope, we discussed here that the management team and the leaders has to populate this board for the TMR discussion, right? What is the role of the level 3 here? Because what I understand is that the management team and the leaders will prepare the discussions on TMR and not the level 3, right? How can, that's why my answer was the level 1 and level 2 and not the level 3, because, and I would like to hear your opinion about that. What is the role of level 3 here?
Katerina, perhaps I can answer it. Your question is, you're thinking that the level 3 people will not be discussed in a TMR, right?
Well, they will be discussed, but not in this space, right?
Well, actually you can't say it. That's it's during a TMR. That's why the preparation and talking with the business leaders is so important. Sometimes a person from level 3 will be discussed if it's a high potential or if it's a talent. So you can't really say that it's only level 1 or 2 or 3. So it really depends on the business, and it really depends on the situation of that TMR.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
But does it help?
What Randolph said in his comment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
Okay.
we have to have certain limit of the people that we are discussing at one event, right? So it's difficult to discuss more than, say, 20, 30 people deep in details, assuming that we have at least 5 minutes for each personality. So 12 people will give us an hour, 24 people will give us 2 hours, and this is in case we have been agreeing in everything, and there has been no debates, and there has been no talking about, all the guys. So,
Yes, of course. It depends the dimension of the team and the organization of the team.
yeah. So, if you consider your regional managers or any level of managers to be important enough and to be key success people, and some of them may form your talent pool, right? So why don't you schedule another separate TMR to discuss just them? It will make your discussion more interactive and more live, rather than just come through the list and say, okay, this and this and this will survive, and so on and so forth. So it can be one solution. The thing is, there's no guideline. Like, shall we go to N-2 or GM-3 or GM- whatever the number is. So the guideline is we have to consider who are the key talents, which positions are supposed to be key for our business and for the reaching of our priorities. And so we plan our TMR curriculum accordingly to that. So this is the kind of answer.
Okay, thank you.
Another questions? Okay, we go on then further. Again, if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to put them in chat feature. So we came to facilitating over TMR, and I would like to open this topic with these two beautiful pictures. And the question is, which picture, in your opinion, represents more the role of facilitator? Picture number 1 or picture number 2? Yeah, or maybe not any of them. None of them. You recognize any pictures here, by the way? I believe number 2 is Sherlock Holmes movie.
Oh.
Number 1 is famous Russian character named Alyonushka, and she is sitting there and waiting for her brother, very sad because he has turned into a sheep. Russian fairy tale. Okay, so let me close the poll. The system asks me to hold for 15 more seconds. So we have some people who have answered all the buttons. So we will now ask them to share us the response. But give me just 1 second to share with you. So, Muriel, you have selected the person number 1, and can you comment on that? Why you consider Alyonushka to be an effective facilitator?
Well, I probably would not have if I had known the explanation, Yuri, in advance. I suppose I didn't like picture 2 because I didn't feel that the facilitator's role was to be with a megaphone shouting at people. So neither really works, particularly given the description of the lady waiting for her brother.
Okay. But if we were thinking about this, there is something in this picture which reminds me a facilitator. And if we could thought like, what is there, similar to a facilitator, what could it be?
I think the fact that she's contemplating is the way I looked at it, and maybe considering the information.
Yeah, and maybe listening, right?
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
Considering the information, analyzing it, not giving too much information from ourselves, right? and maybe remaining calm and quiet, because the meeting sometimes, it's not always calm and quiet, and maybe managing your own emotions. So there is something in this picture which really reminds me about a facilitator. Okay, let's go to picture number 2. And can I ask Olga Nikulova, Olga, why did you choose this picture number 2 to be an effective facilitator?
Probably I'm wrong. I was wrong choosing Sherlock Holmes as a facilitator. But I think that sometimes the facilitator can bring a little bit order into this discussion. So a little bit more probably schedule and bring all of them to one conclusion. So, or I think that none of these pictures really fits the situation, explains the situation. But sorry, Yuri,
okay,
for choosing Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, and can I ask Elena Fries, why did you choose none? Can you give us a few comments on that? Elena, are you with us? Not quite sure.
Can you say that, Anat? I'm sorry.
We hear you. Please go on.
I choose number 2. I think I agree with the order thing. I don't know, but in Israel, it's kind of, just to let the meeting some direction, or to show them the way. I can see it in his eyes, I think.
Okay, thanks a lot for your comment. Well, the truth is somewhere between, actually, right? Because the facilitator should not be too calm and, just sitting still somewhere, not really participating in a discussion. At the same time, the facilitator should not be too persistent, too loud, giving too much directions to the group. So the truth is somewhere between. And if we ask Wikipedia or, any other pedia, who is a facilitator? So facilitator is someone who helps a group of people understand their common objectives and assist them to plan to achieve it without taking particular position. So this is the crucial thing about the facilitator. Facilitator doesn't have his own opinion about the situation, or even if he does have this opinion, he doesn't show it, and he doesn't help the group to be along with his own opinion. So he has to make the group talk to each other, to make the group come to develop the decision. And what he does contribute, and you were absolutely right about this order thing, it's facilitator contributes structure and process to interactions, and sometimes he can give feedback to the group like, guys, we have really been discussing this for 15 minutes, and if you feel this is really that much important, we could focus some more, and we could use some more time for this, but otherwise we would rather go forward because we have some other, couple dozen people to discuss and so on and so forth. So facilitator is a person who needs to help the group to come to their decision. At the same time, facilitator's role is to help the group keep their thoughts in order and keep the thinking process in order. So he is responsible for the thinking process in the group. And we have some guideline here, and if you look at those bullets, most of them are kind of making sense. So we are looking to keep the process on time and on track. We checking the discussion so it would be focused and so on and so forth. And why it's important is facilitator's role, because it really depends to facilitator how effective the discussion was there. And my experience is that the groups came out to be very different, and sometimes people tend to just, checkpoint and go further. And sometimes they have a lot of discussions, and you really need to put serious effort to make them talk, to make them really think about this decision. And sometimes it's on the contrary, the people are, making too much struggle where probably it's not useful. And so we are here to help to navigate the group through it. Let's spend a couple of minutes and let's discuss your issues or your questions that you face being a facilitator in TMR or maybe preparing to a TMR. So can I ask any of you who has questions or issues to share them, please, at the moment? Okay.
Someone is on hold.
Okay.
Yuri, I can add something to this. It's not an issue, but I'd like to give some advice. We did get some questions on what are good questions to ask during the TMR as a facilitator. And again, also you will find some information on this on MyHR, and it's called the Facilitating TMR Meeting, In-Scope Talent Calibration Discussion. And we can send it afterwards if people like it, because then there's a schedule and it's very clear in what kind of questions you can ask. And sometimes most important questions are things to clarify or to focus and ask questions like what or how. And that really, those questions help move the discussion forward. But there's a lot in that schedule I'm mentioning. There are some examples of questions as well.
Okay, we'll then distribute it. And I have a couple more slides dedicated to facilitators' role. We are, maybe the most, sometimes one of the difficult things is to assess leadership potential, because it's kind of subjective decision, and it's really difficult to assess a person, in certain points or percent or, a certain weight. So we have this aspiration, ability, and commitment thing to discuss the potential of a candidate. And your questions that you may direct to the group as a facilitator could be based on some of those questions that you see here. It's a standard slide from all our presentations that we were given. So you could focus the group on some of those questions, and maybe even share this slide before the beginning of a TMR, and maybe send it before the TMR to help TMR participants to be on the same page, to have the same understanding of what do we mean by leadership potential. So this is one important thing where, well, I personally feel there are lots of, misunderstandings, at least, and people really understand it a different way. And this is another one, which is also very important, which is career trajectory. And sometimes we find it a little bit difficult to understand where should we put our people, where should we put our members of the talent pool, and what should be the trajectory. For example, if we have a general manager of not a very big unit, and we assume he will continue or she will continue to be a general manager in, next maybe 10 years, next 5 years, say, and the sales will be, will grow. So does it mean that we need to put him into the other level or what? So there are a number of questions like here. If you have some concerns in mind about this structure, can I also ask you to share them, like my example? Okay then, there's a lot of information here. I believe it's well, pretty self-explanatory slide, and again we have it in our standard decks. We have received during the preparation to this workshop, we have received several questions. I think we answered most of them, but let's have a double check. And again, if you have some more, please don't hesitate to ask us right now. So there were a question about the TMS system. Are we able to see 9-box models in Taleo system based on the 9-box that manager inputted? Miranda, probably you could comment that.
Yeah, well, actually, I answered the question already. It is possible, and prior to the meeting, you have to create a talent pool, and then you can show the 9-box even during the meeting. But there's one condition that the manager should complete the talent profiles, the manager view of the talent profiles of the talents, and if all the information is in there, the 9-box will be shown.
And talking about the boxes, let's touch the 12-box matrix that just appeared like probably 10 days ago. So let's comment that. What additional boxes stand for?
Well, there was a clear desire of business leaders to have the opportunity to mention for people who are at level. Sometimes they are able to grow into another position, another job, but they're staying at the same level, and many business leaders wanted to that possibility would be shown in the boxes. So that's why they decided to put an extra column in it, so that makes 12 boxes. So it means at level, growing within that level, and then there's growing 1 level up or 2 levels and more. We do realize that the timing was not well as ideal as we hoped for, because it's in the middle of the TMRs and people are used to the 9-box. But it's not really. Please know that it was a big, strong desire of the business, and that we had to do it now already. But it's not really like it's a big new tool. The idea, the basics are still the same, and there's one extra column mentioning growing within the same level. So it's an extra opportunity to show some more possibilities for talents. And perhaps it's important to say, if you already use the 9-box and if you completed them, there's no need to move people up again to make sure they fit in the 12-box. It's fine if you've done it already. It's fine.
Okay. And I just opened this slide again with the career trajectories to show that actually a person may have on the same level quite a lot of development opportunities, right? So
exactly.
This is why Okay. There were a set of questions about divisional TMRs, cross-divisional TMRs within one country, and so I think the short answer is yes. And I think we could have a brief comment here, because as we had a communication just yesterday, John sent us a couple of slides about that. It's quite a different process compared to the divisional TMR. John, if you could take a couple of minutes to spot a light on that.
Sure. And I understand the question, by the way, because I think in some countries this has happened and others it hasn't. I know in Russia, Irina Perugina is planning one for later this month, I think, provisionally. Yeah, cross-divisional, if you think about a normal TMR, and by normal I mean within the business, you basically have a management team who have decision rights and who have shared objectives. So decisions can be made really easily and really quickly. When you have a cross-divisional TMR, you have a group of equals who have come together who can potentially help each other by sharing talents, but there's no need for them to do that. So what we found is, and there is some specific guidance here, but what we found is that by making it really focused, and often focusing on seeing how you can move talent or swap talent between the divisions, and only talking about people who are high performers and available to move in the next 12 months, you can have much more useful discussions. And I think these will, as time goes on, these meetings will become more and more important, because we're seeing a lot of people want to develop their careers without leaving their country, and we have a much better chance of doing that if we look on a cross-divisional level. But typically in one of these meetings, you would identify one or two key roles, maybe GM and medical director or whatever, and look at the pipeline and people who have the potential to do those roles in the future, and then just have a very focused discussion around that.
Okay, thank you, John. So we have some time to look at Muriel's question about the good facilitation questions to prompt discussions. I think we've touched it a little bit during this conversation today, but still, Muriel, can you give us a few more comments? Why did you put this as a key question? And what are exact issues that you face?
Sure, Yuri. I suppose that for me was, because this was my first TMR that I had ran, having the questions really, when the discussion was maybe not progressing, that to me was an area that I felt I needed assistance with. Miranda's absolutely right, and you're right in that the three circles, that diagram was very helpful in the questions that it asks there. And I think even from this morning, the other type of questions I probably would include a lot more around is around the critical positions, and is this person really a key player, or is this really a critical position? So I think maybe some more advanced work in advance of the meeting would have helped me a lot, but that was just on reflection, having gone through TMR.
About that. Okay, these are, we don't have any more written questions, so we still have a couple of minutes. So, dear participants, if you have anything you want to ask us while we are online, please do so.
Hi, Yuri, this is Heidi. I just wanted to know how in the country or in the affiliate do we know when divisional TMR will take place, and how do we know who is discussed there, and if it's done anyway. For example, ADC here is a small team of 15 people, so we take them up in the country cross-divisional TMR. But I guess within ADC they also have a TMR where they discuss some of the people within the team here.
Typically, this information should come through your BHR head, as I understand, and I don't think we will have much more information that you would receive from your BHR head. And as for the cross-divisional, TMR, I think you should consult other BHR heads of other divisions that you have in your country, so they might have some information about that. Do we have some more information, colleagues?
Yeah, so the cross-divisional TMR, the operations one, has actually already happened because that was driven by some global decisions. The commercial one is, I think, in the first week of June. Let me just check. 5th and 6th of June. Typically, the divisional TMRs happen during June, but we don't actually have an overview of when all the divisions have their meetings. But it's a legitimate question, and actually, I will see if we can get the information and share it. we have a discussion in Reiner's next team meeting, just to really kind of review how everything links, and really see how we can make sure things are very clear to everybody. But certainly, they will happen, I would have thought, in June, but we don't have the actual dates for all of the divisions. But we will try and get that.
Yeah, EPD is 25th of June.
But in terms of feedback, I mean, it'll either come down the line through the divisions, or obviously if there are any changes to people's ratings, then you'll see it in the system.
Because I can absolutely imagine that on a local country level that you will discuss certain people that they will discuss also in the divisional TMR. So there it would be good if there is some communication between the, I guess it's on the country manager level at that moment that the feedback is together.
So certainly the deal is if something changes in a rating, then the feedback should come back to you. I guess that may not always happen. You'll be able to see it in the system if a rating's changed. I take your point. It's in the end, it's up to each division in terms of how they give feedback. But we can certainly lobby from an area point of view just to, flag that that's an important part of the process. Because I understand that.
That's a good point on the feedback, because it would not be good that on a local level a talent would get feedback, and then on a divisional level maybe get some other feedback. So that's indeed an interesting point.
And it can happen. I mean, ratings can change. I mean, up or down actually, when it gets to the divisional level.
Okay. I have another important question. I think let's spend a couple of minutes because it's really important for all of us. What kind of feedback is given to individuals after the TMR? And I understand the meaning here is, so the person is in talent pool and is considered to be the K talent. So what do we need to tell this employee? What do we need to tell this guy? Because obviously, most people will be attacking us, I mean, both BHR and L&D, like, okay, this happened, so now what? And we need to be able to communicate them something. So I'm trying to open a slide because we had a guideline, but while I'm doing, probably you could comment, give some comments on that.
Yeah, Yuri, I can comment on that. It is, and it's regarding the guidelines. Of course, it's very important that a manager gives the relevant feedback to an employee who is discussed during a talent management review, and he really needs to give specific feedback on what the person needs to develop, what his strengths are, what his opportunities and possibilities are. What you don't want to communicate is, the 9-box ratings or the career trajectory assessments, or really label somebody as using the word as key talent or high potential. But it's really important to share how the person is, how it is discussed. So what are the strengths and what should the person be developing? How could it be more visible? What is the growth plan? What are opportunities? But it's up to the manager, the manager of the person, to share this information, and it's really important to give relative and relevant and constructive feedback.
So I opened a communication guide which we received as a TMR toolkit, and there is actually information which reflects what Miranda was just saying, so I won't be reading it, but we will instead send it to you. And the key thing is we are making employees aware, but we don't share the all information with them, right? So we have to understand what is proper to share when what's not.
Yeah. And perhaps, you know, it's also, I won't explain it in detail, but because it's also in the guide, but there are some guidelines on what to tell people who weren't discussed. Because sometimes people have the idea that if you're discussed in a talent management review, then it's a guarantee for more senior roles or promotions. But it doesn't automatically lead into another role or a more senior role. And the same goes for persons who are not being discussed during a TMR. That doesn't mean that people are not able to grow or are not able to move into another position. So it's also pay attention to the people who are not discussed.
Okay, I have another question reflecting this one. Is it a common practice that we can translate to employees that they are high poor? And again, I think we will not translate probably that, okay, you are high poor, so you can go and be proud of it.
No, no.
Otherwise, we have to talk with this employee and give them certain understanding of the development plan, and then the company has certain views on that. Yeah, am I correct here?
Yes, yeah.
And the common practice is that we do translate to employee, but we do it very carefully. I mean, if we just go to him, okay, so there has been a TMR, you are high poor, so it really gets this employee the power, you know, to put some more pressure on you and maybe, you know.
No, you know, the advice is to avoid labels like high potential or key talent or you know, words like that. But a person, of course, you can tell them that they are discussed, but focus on what the opportunities are and what a person needs to be developing.
And you know, it's a snapshot. So if you say someone has potential, it's exactly what the word means. They have a potential to grow, but they need to then demonstrate over the next year that they have grown, or else they may stop being seen as a high potential. And equally, one year somebody can be seen as not a high potential, and then the next year they are. So it's a moment in time. So people should know that they're well thought of and that they have opportunities, but not specific, but without labeling them, as people have said.
Yeah.
Okay, at this minute I would like to say thank you for all the participants, and we have two more things to cover, which are very quick, I promise you. So one is we have planned another meeting, and we would like to have your voice, like, do you really want it, do you need it, will you participate next time? And we thought the next meeting could be dedicated to TMR follow-up, and basically how do we make the decisions happen, how do we make them put into practice, how do we make them changing, you know, really things that we decided, how do we overcome obstacles, what necessary actions do we need to make in TMS, and so on and so forth. So on your screens you may see the proposed bullets. Again, we will ask you to share your questions, maybe your issues, and maybe your ideas that you would like to cover. So we are going to make it in early June. We didn't pick a date yet, but something in like first week of June probably will be the best time to do so. Firstly, because the majority of country TMRs will end by the time. Second, because we will be close to the mid-year review, and some of the decisions probably they need to be emphasized during mid-year review communication with employees, with managers. So this is one thing. And the next thing, can I ask you to please share your feedback in chat feature, so you'll have you all have your feedback prompt at your screens now. So please answer two questions. I think it's easier and faster to make it by typing rather than by giving a word to each participant. So was it helpful, this meeting? What do you think? How it went through? And are there any other topics you would like to be covered on the next meeting? So this will help us to really understand, because you see we have utilized 4 L&D team members, 1 director, which is kind of expensive. So if you really consider this to be important for you, please let us know. So if you think there are some other important topics you would like to cover, please let us know. So I'm waiting for, before you disconnect from this talk, I'm waiting for these 2 answers from yourself. And by saying this, thank you for this for participation in this platform and this workshop. Hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yuri.
Thank you all. Thanks, Yuri.
Thank you.
Bye.